Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Tex Homer, next to me is Ian Boyd. We are an hour early today because Ian is in Atlanta, and he has to catch a flight a little bit later, so we didn't do 9:30 Central. We did 8:30 Central, so appreciate you guys that are up this early. And then our normal 9:30 crew, you'll still get to see the video when it's done airing. All right, first things first, we got some housekeeping here. Join InsideTexas.com today. It's only $1 for new members up until 8:30. That's the Ohio State game. You can get the best fall camp coverage from Eric. Of course, recruiting news has been fun the past couple days, and so you'll enjoy it. And then also, Paul Wadlington, our very own, released his 2025 Longhorn Football Prospectus, Thinking Texas Football, 13th annual. The best Texas Longhorns preview in the game. Also previews all the SEC teams, does a nice piece on roster management, and then Eric does a piece on recruiting. So you're going to want to buy this, guys. Links are in the description. You can get the ebook or the physical copy. Just click down below in that description, and you'll be able to do so. How's media days, Ian?
Solid. I don't love the format of these. It's not like you get just a ton of access, chance to go back and forth. You're not hosting the Joe Rogan Experience with Steve Sarkisian or any of these guys.
Right.
But it's been very positive.
You get your one question, you try to make it count. Sometimes it gets through, sometimes they don't bite. It's a fun game in the reporting world. I only had to do one with Joe when we were before the Ohio State. Was it? I don't remember. Ohio State. Well, who's the Cotton Bowl? Ohio State, right? So I went there and did that, and it was interesting watching all the reporters. And so I got a feel for how many people are normally surrounding a certain coach. You know, Quinn drew the biggest crowd, of course. It was nice. Here's the strategy, man. You go to everyone else first at those things. You get your Anthony Hill. We had Trey Wisner there. We went to PK, Flood. And then you try to catch Quinn later because all the national media is fixed on Quinn. But what I noticed, this is Derek Ochoa, Texas's very own. This is his picture of Arch's scrum. It's pretty wild. And
that's me.
Where are you? Where are you?
That's me. Like my face is behind the camera. Maybe that's not me. I can't tell.
I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right there. Because you had a gray shirt, right? All right. So this is a big scrum. Arch is getting all the attention. They announced, Arch is going to be at position 1. This guy's at position 2, position 3. Everyone, you'll see the national media just beeline. And Arch brought it up several times because they had several different availabilities throughout the day. He was very self-deprecating, really basically saying, I don't know why I'm getting all this attention for not doing anything. He knows why, but it's still strange, man, to watch. I did a tweet. He signed a jersey for a kid. It was a nice moment. But as he's trying to have this authentic moment, it's being filmed, by 10 people. And then so it's just like a strange world he's in where he's kind of stuck on this stage and having to perform. And it's got to be a little trippy for a young guy. I mean, he knew what his name brought, but it's got to be surreal.
Yeah, you can tell there's just let me get out there deal. I just want to get past this, get out there, show you what I've got. And there's probably so much anticipation because the expectations on him are so big.
Yeah.
From the team, from the fans, from the national media. He's a total lightning rod of conversation. And he just wants to get out there and be like, let's get this started.
I mean, people that have, done this for years have said, this was like Manziel level. And I think Joe pointed out that Manziel had a legal issue or something weird right before. So the media was really on him. But just to have this level of heat, not being a starter yet and not in some type of controversial situation is pretty strange, man. But he handles it well. He handles it with grace. We'll talk about his temperament. You did a piece. He uses his humor really well. He's able to engage people like that, clearly quick-witted. So at least we know he's a quick processor as far as a conversation goes. And he stays cool. But it's funny, man, watching him in the morning to the end of the day, you could see he was tired because you got to be on for 8 hours, and everybody's peppering you. And I had to cover all the availabilities for the videos. So I got to see that all of these guys got asked the same, like at least 5 questions every availability. So that's also just got to be kind of a tiring exercise. I know, Ian, you wouldn't dare do something that boring. So what did you try to get in asking Arch?
Well, I did your strategy. I went to Taff, I went to Hill, then I went to Arch and snuck in there. And like, you've got to yell your question confidently. That was very tough for me to learn at these because I'm not like I'm a very soft-spoken person. People complain about the volume and lack of energy I have on these shows all the time.
Yeah.
And so I called out like I was like, hey, you got used last year on the field late in the year in a sort of Tim Tebow type role. How do you feel about playing in that role? And should Sark have given you the ball on the goal line against Ohio State?
Dastardly, dude.
No, that's not that is not the play with Arch. He's just like Bill Belichick answer on that.
Yeah.
Excited to do everything I can to help the team win. Looks over for the next question.
Yeah.
But I need to figure out what the right way. There's certain players. Quandre Diggs was so easy. He was the most portable.
I did an hour-and-a-half interview with Quandre Diggs when I first started. He's the chillest guy, easiest to talk to, super open, honest, gives great answers. I loved my interview with Quandre. He was great.
Man, that was like right after Charlie or right before Charlie was about to kick half the team off in the first season when we got him.
Yeah.
And he was like, you could tell he already knew. He's like, we got some guys that need to get out of here. They're not with the program. And it's like, are they still with the program? He's like, you tell me.
Yeah. Dude.
And I asked him, I was like, hey, who's the best nickel defensive back in the Big 12? Like, you're looking at him.
Yep. Yeah, man. Quandre's super engaging and honest, and he's always been like that, man. He's super fun. But yeah, I liked your question, trying to break up some of the monotony of how are you handling the hype asked 50 different ways. Something about his uncles always. How'd you deal with Quinn? It was just the same questions over and over again, and he handled it great. But somebody did ask, I can't remember, I think it was in Sark's presser where he's in front of the Longhorn screen, not the press conference, but the second version. They asked finally a good question. They were like, hey, what did you learn from Lavelle Edwards? And that was always going to be my question. I'm like, hey, you talk about Saban, you talk about Carroll all the time. What did you learn from John Featherstone at El Camino? What did you learn from Lavelle? And you get good answers when you do that, man. Someone asked it, they got a long answer because you're allowing them to reminisce and talk football. But so many of these questions are not football related. They're all kind of TMZ style questions. So I see why they get tired by the end of the day, man.
Yeah. Taff was the easiest guy.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Hill is a little more guarded, but he was a chill guy.
Well, he's happy guarded. So to me, whenever I was doing the interview with Hill, he's like a Labrador, he's just a happy guy. So you're not going to get a gotcha. You're not going to get him to say something that he shouldn't say. He knows the rules. But he's always just like, yeah, we're going to go out there. I'm really looking forward to it. So he's short, but positive. Some guys can be short and kind of harsh. Hill doesn't take the bait. I asked him, I was like, hey man, how are you going to do on underneath coverage versus Jeremiah Smith when they run those shallows, and he's like, well, I've been working on my coverage. We're going to do, just the basic answer, but he's a positive guy. So Hill's fun. I think Taff gives you great answers.
Taff is the one. I should have spent. It's hard because it's like I flew all the way to Atlanta. I got to at least try with Arch, right? I got to try with Hill. But I could have just hung out there with Taff, and I probably would have got a lot. I got a decent amount as it was. He's he seems like he'll be like governor of Texas someday.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
Because he can talk at length and still not slip, And
I have a theory. I have a theory that Sark's big presser got off to so he sort of stumbled through it for a little bit before he found his bearings and started playing the greatest hits tracks, like we said. And I have this theory that he saw Michael Taft show up with that special tie, and Sark was like, "Oh man, that's right on. I should speak to that too."
Yeah.
And then he came up and he just kind of gave this stumbling answer. He's like, "I'd be remiss if I didn't say something." I don't think he had planned on that. I think he was just like, "Oh, I should really say something about the communities affected in the Hill Country by that awful flood."
Well,
if he was not reading, he was just trying to wing it. It felt like
he did play the greatest hits, man. He had the Eric called Who You Are Some of the Time, All the Time, the GPA story, tracks. But in theory, right, Harvard should go win 12 games every year with the GPA theory. But I think it does have some proxy there. I remember when we put out that graphic of our really low GPA and just got clowned on by everyone in college football. That was really enjoyable. But Sark was kind of intense, man, at the presser, because the opening question was, "What are you gonna do about your red zone offense? Like, that's the reason y'all aren't winning the big games, And and so and then once that happened, he was a little more tense, intense. And then we found out that quietly, I did a tweet. He was doing the Corleone at the baptism thing the whole time, meaning that he's out in public. He has an alibi, right? Everybody knows.
I do renounce them.
Yeah, exactly. He renounces the devil.
Sark, do you renounce the use of NIL to induce players to leave their state and come play for you? I do renounce them.
Yeah,
collecting a bag.
Exactly. And so Sark was doing the Corleone at the baptism. He was pretty intense. And then you find out behind the scenes, we have Atkinson, we have Johnson, and then you had an interesting dynamic with Kirby, right? So, and Kirby and all of those guys, they're buddies, man. They're in a group chat together, Kiffin and all of them. But it's still, heavy competition. So they ask him about Texas. And, Texas is a great team. Texas does this, Texas does that. And it's almost like the kinder you are to a team is the more you want to beat them. And so Kirby was doing that. And then he made some comment about relationships over NIL. I'm not knocking Kirby for that. Literally, I don't know a coach that hasn't said that. Every single coach is it's about relationships. But Texas fans took that as a slight, and I think he knew what was coming with Johnson probably as well. So it was just an interesting dynamic with Georgia and Texas kind of in the same room. Sark really intense, knowing this was going on in the background. It was pretty cold-blooded on Sark's part to be like, yeah, we're going to do it on media days.
I 100% think that Kirby was trying to recruit. He was trying to battle against the narratives that he knew were swirling, that Texas is coming in and taking your lunch money and
Yeah.
I think Texas is absolutely who he had in mind when he was talking about we're not going to be transactional. Texas, not like Texas, he's transactional. Yeah. We're not going to be like that. And they were message boards. I was with Joe, and he started pulling up the message board after we were done with all the media day stuff. And I saw some online too on X, and they are just melting down. It's Georgia fans are like, "This sport is broken. This sport is ruined." It's so funny.
Yeah, but it's every message board, right? What happened when Ojo went to Tech? It was the same thing of they're paying players. This is just how fans react. I don't care who the board is. And Georgia actually has a funny mix because Georgia's won a lot.
But it's funny every time.
It's funny every time because Georgia has their meltdown fans. Every board does. And then Georgia's fans that are like, guys, we're a really good program. We know how this goes. Make fun of them. So Georgia has a good mix. They do have a healthy contingent of really reasonable fans that understand how to handle it. And then, of course, you're going to have the meltdown side. But, Texas did the same thing. Every board does the same thing. When you get a player through NIL, it's whatever. You can either say it's not a big deal or we had a relationship. But if someone else takes your player for NIL, then, they're evil, bad people. Message board and fandom, man. It's short for fanatic, right? So clearly it can get a little cultish in the fan world. But I thought Arch did a great job. I thought he was really personable. I thought he handled a really uncomfortable situation, being surrounded all the time and being basically the lead star of SEC media days without starting. If he can handle this kind of psychological pressure, I think it bodes well for, when the season gets tough.
He's got to be like at least a little bit used to it.
Sure.
He did go to a smaller private school where he probably didn't have quite as much. He was able to like kind of be another dude to some extent, I imagine, at Isidore Newman. But yeah, he's also he really is 6'4".
Cool. That's good. That's good.
He's like towel. He can't hide. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
He's like walking around in his froze, his frat clothes, and he's just like he's got to be used to it to some level because there's just no way that he's been able to.
Well, he talked about it. So he said in Newman, at a 2A school, no one really cared. Like they wouldn't come up to him for an autograph because that's just your classmate. But he said it was weird at Texas that people would stop him for his autograph. So he said that he'd pretend he was on the phone with his mom or call his mom so he could look busy. So I'm sure it is a little overwhelming at Texas at first. Did you have football players in your classes?
Not in my class. Not a lot of football players were majoring in history, taking classical languages, but run into them sometimes. I actually had a job in the education building, and I tell the story all the time. Usually when I'm denigrating the College of Education, where I would go walk into classrooms to help a teacher set up like a presentation or basically just figure out how to do PowerPoint into the overhead deal. And the classroom would be like a bunch of like cute college girls doing like what looked like arts and crafts. And like three hulking dudes in the corner, just kind of like with their hoods down.
So you're on point. So what I was gonna say is like I was an RTF, so there weren't a lot of football players, but like in my other classes, like Spanish or like I got my little minor cert in the business school, so they were over the business school. You would think, football players would be loud and, disruptive. They were always very shy, like very to themselves. Like David Ash was in one of my accounting classes, and I didn't see him talk to anyone all semester. So it's kind of the football players generally, I mean, they'll talk to each other, but they're not disruptive. And I would argue that they're even less sociable than like an average student whenever you're in classes with them. And I don't know if that's because the coaches are like, hey, you better not mess around, but they're not wild. They're wild outside of class, that's for sure. But in class, they're pretty quiet guys. They just kind of keep to themselves.
Yeah, you could tell. I would see like Colt or whoever, and they're mostly keeping a low profile, not trying to get everybody buzzing around him. I saw Michael Griffin in there a couple times. I guess he was going back because he was already with the Titans. I think like going to the Pro Bowl, but he came back to finish his degree, I think, and I would see him going down the hall, very unmistakable, especially in the College of Education.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I went to school during Charlie Strong era, so the players weren't at max confidence at all. Maybe it'd be a little different if it was Vince time, but they were losing a lot, right? So you probably didn't want to have a lot of conversations with the fans because it would basically go like, "What the hell is going on down there?"
Yeah, I went to school with Marcus Aldridge, Kevin Durant, Colt McCoy, Vince Young.
Jeez, yeah, not me.
They were all like it was a thing if you saw them. I saw Kevin Durant leaning against a tree outside of Jester once, and it was like a younger sapling.
He was as tall as the tree.
Tall as the tree.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have that experience. It was like Quandre was there and all of that, but they were losing. So like talking to your classmates probably wasn't even ideal. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear a word from Academy of Sports and Outdoors.
All right. Who's ready?
I'm open.
Fun, can't lose. Go back to school shopping at Academy Sports and Outdoors. All right, Ian, let's do your athletic tight end piece we got here.
Do you want to hear a couple quotes? I haven't posted this article yet, but do you want to hear a couple quotes I'm going to post from Taff on the next wave of players?
Yeah.
Before we do that? All right. He said, this is Jonah. He's talking about Jonah Williams. Michael Taff said he's built like a freak. I mean, he's probably 6'4", 215. I don't know off the top of my head. But to have that stature and that frame and also be able to run 22 miles per hour is insane. And it's not only all the physical abilities he has, it's the mental side. I was in there with him trying to help him, and I was like, dude, I'll go down to the downside safety, and you can just be in the top and show your range. And he goes, no, I want to learn both right now.
Cool.
There's some
hope, some Kool-Aid, right?
Some red meat about Jonah Williams' future. All right, Colin Simmons, he said. It's like one of the plays in the when Colin Simmons first arrived on campus. He says one of the plays he wears this long towel in practice. It's like a shower towel. I'm like, what is this guy doing? All of a sudden he runs up with the ones. One of the very first weeks he's out there, and set hut. A second later, he's getting back to the quarterback and he's giving our left and right tackles a heck of a day. It's definitely easier to play DB playing man coverage when you got him going after the quarterback. It shocked my eye. It was like, is it that sweaty outside right now? Why is he wearing that towel? But then I watched him and he got after the quarterback, and I was like, you can do whatever you want as long as you're getting to the quarterback like that.
Yeah. He's yeah, I don't even Colin Simmons is just like such a strange, incredible player to watch. We know that about Simmons, but with Jonah Williams is what I'm excited to hear about, especially in baseball, man. Like before he was even in the rotation, he was always up in the dugout, excited. You don't realize how much of a team player he is until you saw that. He's super engaged, man. And then when he got on the field, he had the most confidence on the field. He's a young guy. Most confidence on the whole baseball field. Maybe sometimes too much confidence for the old baseball heads that get grumpy with any show of emotion. But this baseball season showed me a lot about Jonah Williams. I love it, dude. I'm not a true fan. So to me, if you can make it WWE a little bit, I'm like, this is what I'm talking about.
I love Jonah. I can't wait for him to do that on the football field. But when he was like talking trash to that pitcher that one time, yeah. I was like, y'all should give him some high heat.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, the response.
Don't allow this. We can't allow this.
The response is allowed, right? So it's like, yeah, you can answer back to Jonah there. I totally get it. But like, dude, even I think it was the 1997 Super Bowl I was watching last night. Is Packers Patriots, and Desmond Howard returns the kick, does a good return. Turns to the sideline. No one's even talking to him. He just turns, walks into the Patriots sideline and starts shoving them just for out of nowhere, just to get the heat going. And then throughout that game, they were just so much more intense back then. It was wild watching. Like you would get flags for everything, but those guys were just like purposely trying to bait the other team the whole time. It was pretty awesome, man.
There were stories that how did you say his name? Clavon Chason with LSU.
Yeah.
When LSU came to Texas, he like tried to come over and like drink water from the Texas side before the game and like get up there and intimidate them.
That's
there's still some of that, I think.
Yeah, but it was wild watching the NFL in the late 90s. It was just on go. And also, man, this is before everything was, they had some too high, but really, man, it was just I was like, man, if you could take an offense from today and play a defense from then, you would score 100 points. Like everything was so simplified. But one thing I noticed, they hit harder and their gaps were cleaner. Like their assignments were cleaner. So like it was just like they would pry open, the linebacker would be directly on the running back. It was so clear to watch. It's not as blurry as it can get sometimes. That was something that I thought was interesting too.
You would kill them if you played by today's rules for sure. But if they're allowed to headhunt your receivers,
correct,
your Xavier Worthies are going to be out on a stretcher pretty quick.
Yeah, man. And just so what I noticed, like that, right? Like they hit harder. They were more aggressive. It was cleaner. It was visually cleaner, which was interesting. But just schematically, when they would have the receivers out and stuff like that, I'm like, man, you could run everything on these guys right now. But it's fun, man. And sometimes when they run, man, you're like, man, it looks different. It's interesting. I'm going back.
Let's indulge this Splendid Daddy question real quick.
90s NFL. Go ahead.
90s NFL defense versus 2019 LSU offense. LSU got a shot.
Schematically, they would pick them apart. But
well, I was going to say the RPOs would murder them, but the 90s NFL defense would probably just be playing man. So it may not be quite. It may not be quite as bad.
Right there, yeah.
I don't know. That's actually kind of tough.
Dude, go watch. It was Brett Favre's first Super Bowl. Our NFL has it on YouTube. They have them all.
I kind of think the NFL team would win. I think the talent disparity is big enough.
Oh yeah. So it's like my thing is schematically, Brady would cook them. It's Joe Brady, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brady would cook them schematically, but the athletes look great. And of course, the neck rolls, man. People are wearing just regular T-shirt, long sleeves, man. We need to bring back some of those looks. They looked cool, man.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. The 5-out would be the thing that was tricky because the 90s team would have these linebackers that would get isolated trying to cover Justin Jefferson on an option route underneath.
Right.
But I probably just that it would just be too big of a talent disparity.
Yeah, and what they were playing against, everything was 2-back, 2 tight end. And so that's why Brett Favre was killing, dude, because they'd be in 2-back or 2 tight end. They would isolate one of the outside receivers and he could just throw bombs, dude. And even switch, they did have some switch concepts. And man, you would think the switch concepts were impossible to guard back then. It was interesting just to watch the little things. So they're still NFL players, so I'm sure they do great versus LSU. But if you took an NFL team running the LSU offense versus a 90s defense, man, those concepts would be tough to defend. All right.
That's like the breaking point. If you go to the 80s NFL, LSU would whip them.
Yeah.
But 90s, it's like basically your modern athlete. I don't know.
And you see you get the foot in both worlds. So like half the game, you're like, man, this is old school football. Everything's single high, 2-back. And then the next play, you'll see them do something, that looks more modern. So it's fun to watch because you're able to learn what the old school looked like and where it was going at the same time. Watch like those late 90s Super Bowls. They're pretty cool, early 2000s. All right, let's talk tight ends, man. So we know we had Gunnar Helm, Jatavian Sanders as good receiving threats, right? They weren't great blockers. We've yet to have really a special blocker under Sark. It's kind of the bane of my existence because I like fullbacks. So you can get in front of guys. You can what?
Juan Davis. He was like a fullback.
By name, yeah. By name.
He pretty good blocker.
I was watching him last night. What game did I watch? Michigan.
Yeah.
And he would go up and I've been rewatching everything. Blocking in the sense that he was in front of him. Like if there was a guy coming, there was several times he would turn his shoulder and just do that. I mean, it wasn't a ton of like good latching on. Of course, I'm talking about like a Ben Sinnott, that kind of like H-back, fullback. We just haven't had that. I think it'll go to that because teams are going to play more too high in response to the passing game. So I think we're seeing with trends in the NFL, at least, it's going a lot more towards old school run games, 12 and 21. So meaning that having a good blocker is going to matter. So we'll see if we do it. But let's talk about what we do have is receiving tight ends. Winston is a little bit in both worlds, but we have really young athletic guys, Jordan Washington, Winston, Townsend, that kind of stuff, receivers. And that's great. We're going to want to be able to do that. But we're also going to need to be able to run the ball. So do you want to start with this dual threats orbit thing first?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let's get it going. Tight end screens, RPOs, all that.
So Sark has just a ton of different ways to help the tight end out by using him in the passing game. Almost all of Sark's offensive concepts flow from threat of the pass to set up the run. So like play action and deep shots clear out space for the run game. Sark is like, I want to throw the ball over the top and score. And when you worry about that, then I'm going to run you over when you start playing two back. But before that, I'm going for shots because shots will win the game. And then he has the same philosophy with tight ends where it's like he doesn't aim for like the killer blockers like maybe you would want or I would enjoy. He goes and gets the great athletes. He teaches them all these tight end screens, leak plays, play action plays where they like release. It looks like they're going to block and they release. And then all these plays where like the defense sees run, they start playing run, and then the tight end is just like sprinting into open space and getting hit. It's the primary read for the quarterback. So you had like we've had 3 years in a row now, Texas, where Sanders, Helm were catching 50, 60 balls a year, and we're like a big part of the offense. And all of that helps set up their blocking because the defense, the guy that's the initial first guy that the tight end is may or may not be blocking on a play, like the defensive end off the edge or the linebacker or whatever, he has to like slow play the run. He can't just charge in and blow it up because he's got to be worried that the tight end is just going to suddenly slip by him and run a route.
Yep.
Sark's got all kinds of tricks like that help the tight end. And yet, we don't think any of the guys they have right now can really translate that into good, consistent, reliable blocking. Yet, like in 2025. And a lot of these guys down the line will probably be pretty good at it, especially like Townsend and hopefully Washington. But for now, that's not really a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, it's going to be more I get in front of that guy and he has to take 3 extra steps. Or, a lot of the times the tight end locks up and the player just kind of he just kind of ends the play. The player like lets you block them and they're both just kind of standing there taking a rep off.
Yep.
So it's like that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's going to be the tricky part because we're going to run a lot of gap schemes. We'll talk about here. Tight ends, to maximize these, they need to block. So you see the Y at the bottom of the screen in the core with the offensive line. Imagine the H is not here. I'm just speaking for the blocking concepts. You'll see a lot of what's called split zone where the offensive line will all move towards the field side, move down, and then the Y will go up and seal a backside end. Or it'll be counter. So the guard at the bottom of the screen will pull around to the top of the B gap, or he'll pull around and kick out the end. And then the Y will pull around through the B gap and he'll hit that will. That's counter play. So you want good blocking there. This is what I would see Juan Davis do on counter. He would run up and he would run in front of the will. So he was protecting the gap, but he wasn't blocking. He was turning his shoulder and like just kind of bouncing him off. But if you can get a hold of that will and drive him back, he can disengage and hit him down the field as well. So the blocking part's going to be important. These are in traditional offenses, but remember how I was talking about that end on zone, that kind of stuff. We'll see here that there's some answers to make the blocking schemes even easier, and you don't even have to worry about that end when you have a running quarterback. And that's going to be Ian's kind of main point here.
Texas also on the split zone plays, there's split inside zone and there's split outside zone.
Mm-hmm.
And on split inside zone, the line is not moving that far down.
Yeah.
So that block has to be like a forceful power block. And outside zone, the line is moving the gaps way over. And so that block, that slice back by the tight end, it doesn't really need to hit him that hard. You're just doing the gunner helm screen. Just
Yeah,
like make
you just
good
need to keep
contact.
him from getting involved.
Just don't let him get by you.
Yeah.
And there's just a huge difference. Like they kind of look the same on TV when you watch the play unfold. But man, the split zone, the split inside zone block is got to be like ideally you're getting displacement. You're like pushing that guy out, like a power concept. That's the kind of thing that like some of these guys, if they ran them on split outside zone now and then, they'd probably be fine. But if you're running I don't know if outside zone is going to be the name of the game for the line this year. I don't know if they're going to be up for it because they got so many young guys or new guys. And I don't think these tight ends are going to be like drive blocking anybody.
Yeah, that's going to be the trick. So for the listeners, we have a formation here. It's your 5 offensive linemen. I think aces off is Ian's term. And then you're going to have your offensive line. You're going to have an H back set back to the left of the left guard. And then you're going to have your Y tight end to the back to the right tackle. I'm sorry, I said guard on both times. Tackles. And then you're going to have your Z and your X outside. So 2 tight ends on the field. This is 12 personnel. And then Ian's going to give us an Ezekiel's wheel RPO that they could run off of this. We explain this play.
This is they've run this play a million times from aces off over the last few years. Anytime you'd see Texas and aces off, either from 11 or 12, sometimes they do it in 11 and they like put a receiver in one of those 2 spots, then you would know Ezekiel's wheel might be coming. Or the other RPO they had off of it. And the way it works is like they run if you're the quarterback in this diagram, the line is blocking to your right on zone. Sometimes they did it as inside zone. Sometimes they did it as outside zone. Kind of depended on the year. The backside tight end releases and runs a wheel route. The outside receiver is running like a glance. And then the second tight end slides back like he's blocking a split zone play. But then instead of blocking the end, he too also releases into the flat as a receiver. And then the quarterback reads the unblocked defensive end, and it's just zone read. But the quarterback keeper is not one of the options. If the defensive end crashes after the running back, the quarterback pulls it, tosses it real quick. If the defensive end stays home, he can hand off. But he's actually mostly looking to see, like, is that defensive end dropping into coverage? Because if he's not, we're going to outnumber the defense on the backside pretty fast. And either that glance is going to come running wide open, or the wheel is going to run free, or that I can just check down to the flat. I'm trying to remember. I'm actually a little hazy on the progression. It's been a minute since I've thought about this play. But what made the play so nasty was that it's like you're flooding the backside with receivers very quickly because you've got these 2 guys in the core, like you would say, the Y and the H, who both end up going to one side and releasing out of the backfield on a running play. So it's just very confusing. It's very confusing for the defense. It's very confusing for the linebackers. They have keys that are telling them they're about to run right at me. And then they have also this like complicated routes going on where it's like, well, but if we don't get out and cover those, they could throw it over our heads.
Yeah, and they're also kind of hoping that end surfs. So if everyone's blocking away on a zone, even outside zone, whatever, that end can sit there, but generally he's going to try to buddy up next to the tackle and keep this moving C gap there. So you're hoping that the zone away makes the end surf towards the line, opening that up. And then what you want to see here is the corner going to follow that glance, and then that way the wheel's open? Or if they do kind of banjo call it, meaning safety takes who goes inside, corner takes who goes outside, then you could have the wheel open temporarily, but the flat will be there. And so this is a frustrating concept. And what Ian means by flood is putting more offensive players in an area of the field than there are defenders. It's normally it's a good zone beater to, if you ever hear of the sail concept is a flood. So it's and then on top of that, you do have a run optionality too. So it's a really fun design that Sark's made here. Let's see what your next piece is.
So they have that from this formation, but there's really a lot of stuff they can do from this set. Mostly because of Arch Manning's dual threat ability. So, like, you could run. I drew this up. I don't know if they're going to run this or not, but it was very easy to draw it up in my head as a way to just like cause problems. It's GT counter read. So the end who's in a block is read by the quarterback. There's a tight end to that side. He can just release to go lead block for the quarterback if the quarterback keeps it. So that's already a lot for the defense to get right. You have to have that relationship right between the unblocked end and the linebacker behind him on who chases the running back, who gets the quarterback, who fits the lead block for the quarterback, so that, there's a lot going on there.
And you can flip it easily too. You can just move the back to the other side to get whatever matchup you want too. So it's a cool concept with some versatility.
And then to the other side, you have the other tight end. But because you're pulling the backside guard and tackle, that tight end doesn't have to block the end. He can go lead block for the running back, and it becomes what coaches like to call super counter.
Yep.
Counter with one more extra blocker. So you've got 3 blockers leading for the running back. And then you have an option defender backside, and then another lead blocker on the backside for the quarterback. So there's a ton going on. There's a ton of opportunity to confuse the heck out of the linebackers and just get them to just blow a gap and totally misfit something. And then you got also a chance to release your 230-pound athletic tight ends who we don't think are necessarily ready to block defensive ends, but can they go block a safety? Yeah.
For sure.
And one more layer to this that I didn't even draw. This is a lot to deal with. You start doing this, and then you run play action off of it, and those tight ends release like they're lead blocking for the running back or the quarterback, and then they just keep going. And the quarterback hits them on a quick pass.
Well, it's cool to get, like you said, if the quarterback does pull, now that he has an escort in that wide tight end too. So this is a cool design.
They also, you start drawing up stuff like this, usually what other teams do is they say, okay, the backside quarterback keep options it's too much. We're going to drive ourselves crazy trying to deal with that. So unblocked defensive end, stay home and make sure Arch doesn't keep it.
Right.
And then we'll take Arch and we'll take that backside tight end out of the play, and we just won't worry about it.
Yeah.
Although you could still have that backside tight end run a little pop route. But and then you just be like, let's just focus on making sure the play is super counter, and we'll work hard to defend super counter. Let's not have to give ourselves both concepts to try to worry about them at the same time.
But still, it's still a losing proposition, even if you do make the end stay home, you're still going to get super counter. You're going to at least know what direction the ball's going. That's nice, but you're still getting overloaded. It's basically
at least then, if you're like, we're going to teach our ends to play the counter block really, really well, then you could potentially just kill it. You just cut off the head of the snake.
There's some stunts. You'll end up seeing a lot of stunts too. You can do a couple things with the nose and the tackle to try to exploit those pullers gap. So you'll end up seeing more stunts when you do that too.
Yeah, try to muddy it up.
Yeah.
The other thing with this is that this could be really good for getting one-on-ones outside for your receivers, but it's going to tend to draw teams into playing quarters and playing those safeties kind of tight. And so the defense could just be like, hey, they got all kinds of crap going on. We're not gonna fit it all quite right, but we're just gonna keep these 2 safeties right here and make sure that this doesn't get out of hand, and then we'll see if Texas can fix their red zone problems or not.
Yeah. Can you play action after that? Can you release that H? Can you do are there any second levels to this? It's going to be hard when you're pulling a guard and a tackle. So you're going to have 2 free backside runners.
I would maybe play like North Shore quarters and just tell the safeties, you got H and you got Y. Although, I remember I was talking to Manny Diaz once, and there was this game where Oklahoma, Samaje Perine ran for like 400 yards on Kansas. And it was actually because Oklahoma played with 2 tight ends, and they had a big line, and they just had a bunch of dudes in the box. And Kansas just played man coverage on the tight ends with their safeties for the exact reason that I just gave. Like, let's just make sure we know who's on these 2 guys. And Oklahoma was able to manipulate the safeties with tight end movement and manipulate the linebackers. And then when P. Ryan would hit something and crease them, everybody was like turned the wrong way.
Yeah, trying to man up. Yeah.
So they just ran absolutely wild. So maybe that's not such a good idea. But
That's a fun concept, though, man. And like I said, you can flip the back and run it however way you want. So you can go towards a matchup you like. I think that's a cool concept. Before we keep going, those guys, let's hear a word from our sponsor, David McClellan.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kipling on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Thank you, David. Y'all give him a call. Get your financial house in order, guys. Cool. All right, so we're good. You want to talk anything more about tight end blocking? What we're trying to show you is that it'd be cool to have better blocking. But if you don't, you have a running quarterback. And
who can do RPOs too.
So it's like this, it just makes it so much easier. And this is kind of, I remember when Sark would always say, the more you do, the harder you are to defend. And then in the same breath would be like, we don't want to run the quarterback. Dude, I don't know any more game breaker than a running quarterback. And it doesn't have to be a crazy scrambler. But, man, now you're playing 11 on 11. And it just makes a huge difference. And it makes a big difference in the red zone. And you even saw Quinn running the zones when they wouldn't respect it. So I just think Arch's legs are going to be such a valuable thing on third downs. I mean, optionality is the core of offensive football. Like, go watch football starting, in the 1930s. It was always about this. And so bringing this back is going to just give you so many more options as a coordinator. Anything else on this, Ian?
Yeah, but just, I guess, being able to leave a defensive end unblocked on a zone or power play like these is everything, because now the tight end doesn't have to block them. And you can get back when the tight end doesn't have to block a defensive end. It's easier for Sark to play his games where it's like, is he releasing on a route or is he blocking a smaller defender? You got to worry about both all the time. And it turns these young athletic tight ends that Texas has from guys that are like, oh, they're good, they're exciting, but they're not quite there yet. They don't quite have the strength and physicality and blocking technique. It's like giving them a math tutor. It just makes everything so easy and approachable again because they don't have to block big people.
Yeah. All right, Ian, you ready to talk to the real ball knowers in the chat? Talk some cover 3.
Oh gosh, yeah. Let's do that for just a little bit, and then I gotta make sure I catch my.
We're not going super into the weeds. Don't worry, guys. All right, so I know a lot of diagrams, right? I'm gonna give a very simple point on these. Okay. So this is from Honest NFL. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you need to. He makes incredible diagrams. He explains them very clearly. So this is his cover 3 series, but he's mostly known for his coverage of the Fangio 2-high defense. But I was excited. So I learned a lot about 2-high, but we're going to run a lot more 1-high according to a source. So what that means is 1-high, you're going to have 1-high safety. So think cover 1, man, or cover 3, meaning that you're going to have 3 deep defenders. So you're going to have a safety back and 2 corners usually. I'm just going to explain the very basics here so no one get overwhelmed. Okay, so when you have cover 3, you have 3 deep defenders. There's 7 total in coverage. 3 are deep, 4 are underneath. Of the 4 underneath defenders, you're going to have 2 hook players. Those are normally your Will and your Mike. Okay, and you're going to have 2 seams players, right? That's normally going to be a safety or a nickel. Okay, that's all you have to know. 2 seams underneath, 2 hooks, 3 over the top. Okay, so what we'll look at is the different variations, and all that means is where you're going to insert the safety into one of the 4 underneath zones. Okay, so when you hear 3 sky, you'll hear it's sky. What does that mean? It means 3 sky is you have a weak rotation and a strong rotation. So you have 2 high safeties at the snap, confusing the quarterback. One of those safeties is going to move down to an underneath zone. One of the other safeties is going to go up high in that traditional high zone that everybody recognizes as cover 1. Okay. If they rotate to the strength, the passing strength, you're getting a rotation. And if they rotate weak to not the passing strength, you're getting a weak rotation. Okay. So in 3 sky, what that means is you're going to rotate to the passing strength with your safety. Okay. He's going to take a seam, okay, of one of the 4 underneath zones. If you call buzz, I just think of it as buzz as a backer. So he's going to come down and rotate here. I have to zoom in a little bit. So normally that linebacker would have a hook zone. Well, whenever you bring the safety down on 3 buzz, you're actually going to move the safety to where the linebacker could be. I think of it as a backer zone. It's a quick thing to think of. Now you have the safety where one of the hooks will be. 3 clouds, you'll hear, they're clouding the corners. That means the corners are not going back in coverage. They're keeping a corner near the flats. So instead of dropping one of those corners into a third, now a safety is going to go to the middle. The other safety is going to go to the other third. And then now you're going to have that corner that's going to hang out kind of in the seam world. So that's all we mean here. Sky is safety to the seam. Buzz is safety to the hook where the buzz backer would normally be. 3 cloud is corner. So the corner is covering one of the underneath zones. Sky, buzz, corner, or cloud. That's what we mean when we're talking cover 3. That's basic spot drop cover 3. Okay. That's what everyone's familiar with. If you can pause and look at the graphic, I know it looks a little overwhelming. We're just hitting those base points. Expect to see these kind of looks from Texas this season. Next, I'm going to pull up what we referred to as match coverage. You'll hear us say match a lot. A lot of people are very confused on what we mean, or match zone, man match, all that kind of stuff. This is more modern defense. People aren't spot dropping a ton anymore because teams can figure it out, and there's some exploits. There's some exploits you could do to beat that defense. This looks very complicated too. Pause it, read it if you want. They explain the concept, logic. They explain all of that kind of stuff. All we need to know is you see that there are now different rules for your weak hook, for your strong hook, for your seam player, all of that stuff. And it'll say things like if number 2, the number 2 receiver is not out fast, zone off and match final number 2. So if 2 is, there's a trips and guys are jumping around each other and switching releases, all this stuff, you're waiting for the receivers to declare. You don't want to play straight man because if they start crossing each other, they can bump you off your routes. So it's to handle these bunches, these scissor concepts, these rub routes, all of that kind of stuff. So all you need to know at the bottom, they have 4 variations of what could potentially happen if the receivers move in different ways post snap. And what you'll notice is the nickel's not always covering the same guy. The Mike's not always covering the same guy. So depending on how they switch release, you're going to get a different player covering them.
Can I take a stab at this?
Yeah, go for it.
The big deal with match is that instead of matching a specific person, you're matching specific routes.
Yep.
So it's akin to zone coverage, but instead of just playing in space and looking around, you get back to that space that you would be playing if you're just playing basic zone, but now you're looking for the specific routes that are going to be in that space, and then you're actually going to go cover them more like man-to-man. You're going to see what they are first, like Connor's saying, but then you're going to go match the routes based on your assignment.
The distribution.
And you have rules that tell you which routes to prioritize, which are always going to be based on take away the deeper passes, the deeper windows, and then close and tackle, make them throw short, and then go tackle the guy.
Yeah, so and it's a leverage concept, right? You're trying to send the route that goes to the defender with that leverage. meaning that you can meet them, right? So say a number 2 receiver in this bottom right example, double go mash at the very bottom right, you'll see that number 2 receiver goes inside. Well, who's inside? The Mike. So the Mike is already where he needs to be. The nickel, the number 3, you get a fast 3, as they say, meaning the running back goes out immediately. Now you have the nickel who can expand towards the flat. He has the leverage. That number 1 receiver, the blue route, goes straight up vertical. The corner is already on top of him. So think of leverages. They're trying to make sure that the route goes to the player that has the unique leverage to stop it. That's the value of cover 3 match stuff. So that's what we mean when we say match. We're not going super deep here. Just understand that the same player is not guarding the same guy every time. So fans will sometimes say that this guy got beat on a route, or what was he doing in the flat when this guy went inside? It's because he's following his match rules. It's not, it can get mistaken for man very quickly, but it's not. And sometimes you'll be like, well, why did the corner suddenly play off when he was on the number 1 receiver? Well, it's, if you'll see the first example in the box, it's called shallow cross. You see that corner, as soon as that number 1 goes shallow, that's called the mess technique, man accepts shallow, he is zoning off. Why is he doing that? Because a lot of times when you get the number 1 receiver going in on you, first off, the linebacker is going to have the leverage to handle any shallow routes, so you give it to him. But when someone goes out, you can generally guess that someone's coming back towards you. So he's now suddenly going to play like what's called a squat technique, or not even a squat, a sail technique. And he's going to assume that number 2 is going to run a corner similar to a smash concept. So that corner will start drifting back to zone off, anticipating that corner route or that sail route is going to come behind him. So sometimes you're like, why was that player even covering? What is he even doing? They're anticipating common concepts when they do that. That's the whole design of this, is to be able to match concepts versus a single person.
So this is what Texas is majoring in.
Yep.
They did a lot of this last year, a lot. Nailed it down pretty good, and they're going to do a lot more of it this year. Is what our sourcing has been.
Yeah, so we're just trying to explain the very basics of zone match, man match, all of that kind of stuff. At first, I remember years ago when I started studying it, I was like, this is impossible. I'm never going to be able to learn this. You do start to learn it. And there's a ton of great YouTubers that'll teach you. Cody Alexander, he's a match quarters guy, a quarters defense, but he does a great cover 3 series. You can learn a lot from Cody Alexander. Also, Ian knows him because I was reading Cody Alexander's book one time and he referenced Ian. When I would first read these, it was funny working with Ian because Ian's actually very humble and all of that. Then you read these books and Ian's mentioned like several times by actual coaches of football. It's kind of a trip. You guys got to understand, having Ian is a big treat, and y'all don't even fully understand why that is. But you'll read these books by real coaches, and they're referencing Ian's articles. But that's really cool. There's great YouTubers you can learn from here. And once you start to figure this out, that it's about leverage and the defender in the best position to face this route will get the guy, versus we're just going to man this guy up. Linebacker's always going to take the running back. Nickel's always going to take the slot. That can be exploited, and it does get exploited. That's why you try to create these systems. So when we say cover 3, your brain's going to go to Madden, and you're just going to see everyone dropping back to their zones. Sometimes it happens, but very rarely. Or you'll see one high safety and think we're in man. It can look like man depending on which routes come out, but if the route combination is different, it'll look different. Ian is a great guy saying, wow, dude, versatile.
I don't talk about that. Anybody would have done the same.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So one of those guys, I learned more from them than they did from me, I think, for sure. But just got into that orbit.
Yeah. But yeah, you can learn a lot about this stuff, go in depth. And also, like I said, follow Honest NFL on Twitter. He makes the best diagrams, hands down. And he does really good logic. And he even gives you context clues. So he'll do fun stuff like an indicator. So he'll talk about the NFL. So he's like, if you see the corners with their hands behind their back like this pre-snap, they're telling the defense what coverage they're running. So Texas might not necessarily do hands behind the back, but now I'm super paranoid. Like anytime a player is doing anything unique, sometimes it's a thumbs up, sometimes it's whatever. But anytime a player is doing something physically that doesn't look out of place, I'm like, oh, they're probably signaling coverage. And so that things is interesting too. You can learn a lot from these guys, especially the NFL guys too, because they're
funny.
The advanced stuff.
Coach Voss of Make Defense Great Again.
Yeah.
He'll laugh about how like people go to all these links to steal signs and to block other people from stealing signs.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then the offensive line walks up and then they make all their calls.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you'll see it. It does crack me up because you'll see center point Mike, and it's like, okay, well, it looks like we're going to zone over to here. Or you just have the fun wide receiver that's like, I'm running the slant. Let's see what you can do about it. But that's cover 3 match. That's what you got to understand about it. It's not spot dropping. We're matching certain distributions of routes, a.k.a. we're matching concepts, not necessarily players. Cool?
Cool. All right, I got to fly back to
I was
Austin.
going to say, Ian's got to get from Atlanta to ATX here. But thank you for the coverage, Ian, at Media Days. You and Joe did a really good job.
More to come today.
Yeah. More to come, just not Texas stuff today. All right.
Well, I've got some Texas stuff I'll drop as soon as I get a chance to try.
Yeah, you do. I mean, SEC Media Days is done with Texas, but
I think Michael Tapp told me how they're going to play dime. And so as soon as I've transcribed that, I'll post it.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, chat. Thank you guys, and sorry for being early for our 9:30 guys. Ian hasn't fully mastered time zones. He's working on getting it.
I used to.
Yeah, I used to get it, but thank you guys for hanging out. And also, you guys know the number one spot, InsideTexas.com, $1 until the Ohio State game. New members only. Join the best board in the land. Also, pick up Paul's book, guys. Links are in the description. There's no better preview. Not like these national previews that seem to just be making it up as they go right now. You can get all the links in the description, ebook version, as well as your print copy. Chat, have a wonderful day. Ian, have a safe flight. Later, y'all.